I've always loved standard poodles, and um, when I decided that I wanted to have, a pet, that's what I look for because of the hyperallergenic and non-shedding. And they're also, I think, the second smartest breed, but the first one sheds. So, um, and so we have, like I said, we've always rescued or adopted. I started with a toy poodle, and then I had a royal poodle who was huge. And he was my service dog. And then we noticed that because when you're a service dog, you don't interact a lot with other dogs, and he would only sometimes interact with the other poodles or like dogs in our family. Um, we felt like he needed a companion at home. So when she came up as an option, she was 6 months old, so she wasn't spayed yet because she had been mistreated. She wasn't taken care of. She was being mistreated. And the breeder found out. So my aunt purchased her standard poodle from that breeder. The breeder found out that that she was being mistreated, and part of her contract, she took her back and then offered her for free to her past clients. My aunt saw her because she was a past client and was like, I can't like take another dog right now, but my niece is looking for one. I'm sure that she would love her. And so, yeah, we found her. We met up. We took Yara. So she's AKC registered and everything, but because I got her for free, I didn't get any of that, which I didn't really, care about. But I know that that breeder obviously checks their health. Like she is a reputable breeder, so I like that because I knew that she was going to be, yeah, obviously um, she was well bred, right? Because sometimes they don't do that and they don't care what they mix them with or whatever, and they end up having a lot of health issues and things like that. Um, anyways, so when we got her not spayed, we were going to wait until at least she had two heats because they usually say that that's better. And then my wife's dad, he takes on a lot of strays. Like he feeds the strays of the neighborhood and like he takes them on a lot. And, and she grew up around a lot of dogs and pets and stuff. And then, so from her standpoint, she's like, she used to have a beagle, and her beagle had a pseudo pregnancy, right? So her beagle had a mental pregnancy and she suffered a lot. So she saw that in her. And so then we started talking about, okay, well, maybe we could breed her once so that she doesn't suffer that.
Yeah.
That's the mental and the pseudo pregnancies. And then we were reading too that it can actually help to with a specific cancer that dogs can get. And obviously there's two sides to everything, right? And most of the time it's because people unethically breed them and they don't check their health or nothing and they have issues and they suffer a lot. And so that's why people are like, no, don't breed, don't bring more dogs in and things of that sort. And then sometimes, they end up in the pound or whatever. So when we decided, what, we want to do it for her health purposes and potentially keep one, but we're not sure yet because then that would mean that we have three dogs, and we really were fine with just the two because one of them, like I said, was my service dog, and then the other one was Yara. And Yara, because of her trauma, does not qualify for a service dog because she doesn't have that confidence.
Yeah.
Research, and so we started trying. I'm like, well, how do we find a good mate, like a good qualified mate for her? And I didn't know. I'd never have done this. Like, Val my wife has bred and things before, and so she's, but the other problem is that usually everyone mixes everything with a poodle. Like right now, it's very popular to mix everything with a poodle, and I don't particularly agree with that, but I mean, so I was like worried as like, how do I find an actual standard poodle with, and so that's when we started. At first, we went, so she gets groomed. At first, we were just like, hey, if you guys see a standard poodle who is not fixed and who they want is like all these things, I'm like, let us know because we're thinking about breeding Yara one time. So this is the first and last time that we're breeding her. Like we're not doing it again. Um, and they were like, okay, it's like, and they were like, I think we may have one. He's like, but most of them are doodles. It's like, and so we were trying to do it that way, or like if we saw somebody and their dog looked like a standard, like and whatever we would ask, like, oh, is it male or whatever. Um, and that's when I finally like just doing research and Googling. I think it was a TikTok of
Right.
a girl, and then later on he was like meeting his puppies or whatever. So I was like, what is this? And so I started I looked it up on the website first, and then I got the application, and I made her profile, and um, I put on there that we were looking for a standard poodle. For the most part, we found like 90% of them were standard poodles, but some people were still trying to like, hey, like, oh, I have a doodle, and I was like, no, it's okay. But um, but that's how we found Marley,
Okay,
and we
yeah.
started talking to his mom, who basically was trying to do the same thing. She had kind of she before she neutered him, she wanted to have him have a litter because she wanted to keep one of the puppies. And then she was going to neuter him. So we were kind of in the same boat. Like we wanted to have one litter and then neuter them. And we did health checks with her, we did health checks with him. So we've been very like we wanted, even though we're not professional breeders or whatever, we wanted to make sure that it was all done ethically, and that at the end of the day, Marley, and especially Yara, because she was going to be the one pregnant and carrying the puppies, was was good, was going to be healthy, and this was going to be safe for her.
Okay.